I'm Billy Chainsaw, this is FrightFest TV, and I have the great privilege of sitting here with the legendary John McNaughton, which most of you will undoubtedly know for the highly controversial and genre classic Henry portrait of a serial killer. So John, that's been many decades ago. What has brought you back to the genre?
Just, as I say, often the people think that it's everything is artistically motivated, and to some degree that's true. But it's also practical reasons, wanting to work, I love the horror genre, but it can be a terrible ghetto, and you get caught in it, and they won't let you out. And so I hadn't done horror for a while, and it's also very difficult to find a good horror script because most of them are rather redundant. We've seen them before, et cetera, et cetera. So this one came along, and I hadn't made a feature film for a while, and I wanted to. And my agent sent me this script, and my first read of it was, I felt that it was kind of a little on the booga booga side, and I told my agent, I go, I would probably like to see that film, but I don't think I want to make it. And so he said, well, there's something there, you should read it again. So I read it again, and I realized that lurking beneath the surface, there were really interesting and dark ideas that needed to be pulled forward. So the producers shipped the writer to Chicago, where I live, and we spent some time working on it. And then he went home, and of course the wonderful thing about final draft programs, you can work anywhere. The writer and the director can be anywhere in the world, and it's really simple to work together. And so we worked on the script until we got it to where we liked it, and then we had to find the cast and the money, which was another couple of years. So, but it's going into, to me, I'd never really explored childhood and the darkness inherent. I think it's, childhood is often depicted as this lovely skipping and happy time, and there's the darkness of children and fears and family dynamics and stuff that is just really an interesting and dark place to explore.
Do you remember any darkness from your childhood?
Oh, absolutely.
Let's have a little bit. So, can we have a spoiler-free synopsis of the film? Because obviously I've seen it, so I know you can only say X amount about it.
Well, I don't know if this, in one sense it spoils it, but also it piques one's curiosity. I think at the core it's a story of child sacrifice, and not necessarily in the way you may think, which is to me probably the darkest thing that there is to contemplate, except the entire extinction of the human race. Aside from that, it's about as dark as you can go, and how it all comes about, and there's a very metaphorical quality going on about that involves one's heart, both literal and figurative.
I was going to say, quite literally. So you were saying originally it was all booga booga. And
Not all booga booga.
No, but you got involved because what is so fantastic about the film, for me, I'm sure for anybody that watches it, is the actual pacing of it. Because it's quite a slow burn, drawn out, and you're getting to know the people, and you think you know what's going on, and then whammo.
Well, that's my favorite trick. Orson Welles was his great hobby was stage magic, and he used to perform stage magic, and that's all about misdirection. You do something with this hand while you're pulling the rabbit out of the hat with this, so the audience's eye goes over here for the second you need to pull the trick. And had their eye been looking in the right place, they would see it. They would see the illusion. But you misdirect, and then you can support the illusion. And I love to take an audience along a path where they start to think they know what's happening. Because there's only so many stories to tell, and we all consume and see a lot of movies and television in our lives, and so. Again, with most scripts, when they get sent to me, I can read the first page and I'll tell you what happens on the last page. Why? Am I a genius? No. But because we've seen it before. And so I like to do something you haven't seen before. And so and I like to lead an audience down the path to complacency. We know what's going on. We know how this story. And then, oh yeah, watch this. And you turn it inside out. And I do think those two kids, the actors, were so wonderful as human beings, as persons to work with every day, and as actors, that I just thought, you know, because this film is going to turn so dark, I want you to spend a lot of time with these kids and really get to love them, because they're really wonderful, rich beings, these two. And then once you really have a bond with them, then it'll be doubly horrific when the flip comes.
So how was it then? I'm jumping forward here now, but springing off that, how was it then directing the kids in the more traumatic moments later on in the film? Because it gets progressively more traumatic.
I think, you know, we didn't shoot entirely in sequence, but the big climactic stuff did happen at the end, most of it, and those kids were just so good. They were, so, you know, like I say, the first time I worked with child actors many years ago, I had to cast a little 6-year-old boy, and I thought, where are we going to find someone who can do this? It's pretty complex. We had like, you know, we saw 10 kids, 3 of them could have done it. The one we picked was brilliant, and this little guy with his little sides reading, and I go, where does this come from? He hasn't studied. He hasn't. This is you know, when you see child actors, you realize we're born with gifts, indisputably, and these kids were just so born to act and so professional, but still kids and wonderful kids. By the time we got there, they were acclimated and they were friends with Michael and Samantha. And Michael's got a young daughter, and Samantha's she had 2 kids at the time. She just had a 3rd. And so they were, you know, they knew that they were who they were as human beings, and they had good relationships with each other. So the kids were pretty nonplussed by the whole thing. They were just so professional and so amazing. That, you know, I feel so bad because we had to work really hard. We only had 28 days to shoot the piece. So we'd do these scenes, and sometimes they'd be really grueling and insane. And the rest of us would, you know, you go have a cigarette, go get a coffee, and the poor kids have to go and study. They have, you know, and until they come back on the set. They have no rest whatsoever. I mean, how professional and focused are these kids? It's amazing.
It's probably because they haven't been tainted. You know, as you get older, you get a bit tainted, don't you?
Yes, you do.
So how difficult was it casting the Samantha Morton role?
Well, it wasn't that difficult because we had Michael Shannon, and they had worked together, and they liked each other, and they were in Jesus' Son together, although I don't remember them having scenes together, but they had worked in theater together, and some, I don't know, doing what, but they were, you know, she came because, I don't know why she came, we never discussed it exactly, but I know having Michael was important because she had someone she knew of a caliber that they could go there, you know.
She's notorious for really immersing herself in her roles, and in many ways making them her own. Whatever's down on the written page, you get the impression she puts more than that in. Is that how it was? Did she require much directing, or
no?
Did you let her just run with it?
Well, you get actors that good, you just kind of stay out of their way. And if there's, you know, overt mistakes, you just, okay, well, you know, for technical reasons, that isn't going to work. We have to cut it this way, so we can't do that. But that's, you know, aside from that, like I said, the longer I've directed, the less I direct. You hire, you know, John Huston. Yeah, John Huston. So you hire the right actors, you phone in the direction. And I didn't direct them a whole lot. I would sometimes tell, hey, Samantha, this and she'd just ignore me, and I just laugh. What else are you gonna do? So
I think it's crucial with a film like this, though, because it's kind of at any point that you felt that it was someone acting, you would have been brought out of the situation. You would have been brought out of the film because it's very naturalistic. Everything is very naturalistically performed, and it enhances the drama and everything of the whole picture.
Well, you have 2 very, very serious actors, and then you have 2 very, very gifted child actors, and then you have Peter Fonda, who is a really wonderful actor and just one of the coolest guys that ever walked this planet. I mean, he dropped acid with the Beatles. Come on, what else do you have to do in your life? So.
That's it. I mean, when you see Peter Fonda, a once wild man, being brilliant as a grandfather.
He's just a wonderful guy that's been everywhere and done everything, and he's one of the kindest people. I mean, everyone, when Peter walks onto the set, the crew is happy because they know he's going to be a lot of fun, and he's going to, he'll sit and talk with anybody, from the kid that brings coffee to the President Obama. It's all the same to him. One human being to another. He's just a cool guy.
Sounds like a nice guy.
He is. I think the world of him, and fun and stories. I mean, he's been everywhere, done everything, known everyone. I mean, amazing guy.
I mean, at that point, you epitomise cool, and the fact that you're a nice guy with it, major bonus. So what was the most challenging aspect of making the film?
Well, I mean, it was challenging for me. For the actors, I think it was very challenging to have to be those people. I mean, these are actors that immerse in those characters, and I think Michael was very unhappy to be that guy. Michael's got a young daughter, and maybe another. I'm not sure if he's got another on the way or ahead, but I think having to be that person was awful for Michael. And Samantha, I don't know. Samantha was off to the trailer, but I mean, she was, that's horrible, horrible.
That's what I meant when I was talking about the realism of it. It's kind of like you could sense that in their performances, that they actually abhorred the characters that they were playing because they were family people themselves. I mean, it was quite a sedate performance for Michael Shannon. He usually plays pretty wacko characters.
Yeah, he had to play the weak of the two.
Yeah.
But for me, the really difficulty is, all right, and in the rules in America, first of all, we work a 12-hour day. That's the standard. But children, Charlie was 13, so he could work 9 hours a day. But Natasha was only 12, so she could work 8 hours a day. So every day it's like, oh, hurry, hurry, hurry. We're going to lose the kids, And Michael was appearing on Broadway in a play, so every day at 6 p.m. Michael is gone. The good news is we could never work any overtime because all we have is Samantha, and she's not. There were no scenes with just Samantha. So, so we had 180 scenes to shoot in 28 days, which I forget the math. I think it's 6+. And unfortunately, most of the film takes place in one house. But even moving from the bedroom to the kitchen, to the living room, I mean, it's like, it takes time. And we had so many scenes to shoot. I find that writers, from the difference between my early career and now, writers writing much faster movies, which, I mean, the picture I'm working on now, I looked at one of the last pages, there was 5 scenes on one page. That and in different locations. Well, okay, you've shot one page. You're lucky if you're going to shoot 5 scenes in a day, which means you got one page, which isn't enough, So just making those days was insane.
I think it's one of my favourite films at the festival. Part of that is because it's not an out-and-out horror film. It contains a lot of subtlety. But because of the nature of the film, it's more horrific than having a monster running around.
Well,
it's a frightening film.
I'm going to give away one little scene. There's a scene where the little young Charlie, Andy, in the film, his mother slams the door and his hand is there, so he breaks his finger basically. And when we were setting up to do that, I said, I want this scene of a child getting his finger slammed in a door, because we've all had our finger slammed in a door as children, and it hurts like hell. I want this to be more horrific than the whole Saw franchise, because it's real.
Well, that's again, but we're back to the realism of the film. I think you achieved that from start to finish. Fantastic film. What can we expect in the future?
Well, it's hard to say. You never know.
Will we ever see you with Bill Murray again?
Well, I have a Bill Murray project that I've been working on for 6 fucking years, and it came off the rails last Friday.
No.
Yeah, the financing. Well, but we'll see. But someone else came in, and by Monday it was back on the rails. We'll see. But I thought I would be leaving, London, going home, packing my bags, and going off to make that film. That's not going to happen on that schedule. But yeah, Bill Murray called me 6.5 years ago with a script. He said, I have this script. I really love it. I want you to read it. And I'm going to produce it. I want you to direct it. And I read it. I said, cool, we'll do this. And just, one thing after another thing after another thing, just boom, boom, boom. And it looked like we were right there, and we're not. So maybe it will go at the beginning of next year. But it's a picture called, well, it has 3 titles: Counterfeit, The Counterfeit Kid, or The King of Counterfeit. We don't know which yet. It's about these young kids that become counterfeiters from the wrong side of the tracks, and the one kid has an artistic gift and he turns it towards counterfeiting, and their true love, and they go off on this spree together, and they go from rags to riches, and at one point they get in some trouble and they need help, and so this attorney comes in who is sort of a mentor to criminals, sort of sets them up in business and looks after their, and it's Bill Murray. Plays Happy is the name of the character. And it's a wonderful role for him, and it's a cool picture, and it's a lot of fun. And I always like to have a deeper meaning, and this movie is like, well, I was just in Berlin, and I thought I was in the '60s. Nobody cared about money, and and now in America, it's just like, how can I get more money? How can I get more money? And it's so different than it was then. But this is a story about literally making money. Well, how do you get money? Let's make our own, handmade money. So it has that deeper idea. What is money? How do you get it? How do you deal with it? And these people make their own, and so it's it has some deeper ideas working, but it's a lot of fun. And I'm working on a bunch of stuff. You always have to have 4 or 5.
Any more genre stuff?
Any more? Well, crime. My other great love is crime, and who Ross McDonald was. He was an American. Did you ever see the movie, a Paul Newman movie called Harper?
No.
It's wonderful, and it was made in '64, and he's a private eye, and it's from a Ross McDonald novel. And he's kind of an everyman character, and Raymond Chandler said he's the best American, Ross McDonald's the greatest American crime fiction writer. And he did 19 of these Lou Archer books. And a friend of mine is representing the estate, so he represents all 19 of these books. And but this particular one took place in this late '50s, but all of his books, McDonald's books, took place in Los Angeles, and around in the sort of the fringe, not in the Hollywood but not in all the streets with the palm trees, but in the outskirts, the fringe. And so we've updated. The guy that wrote Wild Things adapted it and updated it to the present. And I just, right before I got on the plane, I had a long phone meeting with the producer in LA, and perhaps we're moving forward on that. Another something called Diary of a Predator, based on a true story, and really, really dark, about a man. Based on a book a woman wrote. Her name is Amy Hurdy. She's a journalist with the Denver Post. She was, and there was this mad rapist sort of terrorizing the city of Denver. I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, named Brent Brents. Right. And he eventually, the city was literally living in terror. He was, committed so many rapes in a 6-month period till they captured him. And for some reason, he was familiar with her work. He's a very bright man in many ways. And he said, there's only one person I'll talk to, Amy Hurdy. So she started to talk to him and then correspond with him and built. And when you find out his story, when he was 6, his father, started raping and beating him. And by the time he was 8, he was his mother's lover. And
that'll change. Yeah.
That was his childhood, and his adulthood did not turn out well at all. But after they captured him and she started talking to him, he was very self-aware. He was very remorseful in his way, and he starts to become somewhat sympathetic, which is like Henry. It's hard to emotionally, wait a minute, but look what he's done. Mm-hmm. And so it's that story of their, of his crimes, and then their, she won't call it a friendship, but she still corresponds with him, and he's in jail he got 1,500 years.
Oh dear.
So he's away for good, but he's trying to be a better person. He's just so messed up. I mean, again, the interesting thing to me is I can't help, but they always say, well, he could have been a pediatric heart surgeon if he'd only, there's always hope. And it's like, well, sometimes I think some people are born damned. Mm-hmm. And
they get broken beyond repair.
Yeah. And no, there's always hope. And sometimes that was at Henry at the end. You know, it's just like what movies must end on up. They must have hope. We must have. What if we make the movie where there is no hope at the end? What will that? How will that turn out? I don't know. And so this one to me is like some people are born damned, and someone has to speak for them. You know, I don't know why, but.
You see, we're back to realism again, because in life, it doesn't always pan out, does it?
No. Mostly doesn't.
Yeah, indeed. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honour.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
And here's to Bill Murray.